I woke up at 2 in the morning to the sound no solar engineer ever wants to hear, a surge alarm screaming from my console like a banshee on fire. I ran outside half asleep, and there it was. Karen's shiny white Tesla plugged straight into my private solar grid, draining power like it was her personal right. Sparks would come later, but in that moment I knew this wasn't just theft, it was war. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Michael. I am an electrical systems engineer, and for years I poured every ounce of sweat and money into building my own off-grid solar setup. Panels, inverters, battery banks, engineered to perfection. It wasn't just about electricity, it was independence, something I could call mine. And that's exactly what Karen hated. She wasn't always the tyrant she became. She got herself elected as treasurer of the HOA at our annual meeting. Nobody else wanted the job, so she slid in by default. Within weeks, she started calling herself Executive Officer of Community Standards. From then on, it was like living under a self-appointed dictator. She fined neighbors for mailboxes that weren't the right shade of beige, slapped warnings on kids' bikes left on porches, even claimed grass could be too green. Most people just rolled their eyes and paid to avoid the hassle. But I wasn't most people. When I built a legal permitted outdoor battery housing near my fence, Karen stormed over saying it invited theft and destroyed neighborhood harmony. I showed her my permits. She didn't care. A week later, I got a violation letter printed in Comic Sans of all things. That told me everything I needed to know. Still, I thought she was just another bored busybody, until the night I caught her red-handed. There she stood in my driveway, arms crossed like she owned the galaxy, her Tesla sucking down my power. "You can't just plug into someone else's system, Karen," I said, barely keeping calm. She looked smug. "It was outside. That means it's community access. Besides, you should be grateful I'm charging clean, I'm not burning gas." I stared at her dumbfounded. My grid wasn't some shared garden hose. It was mine. I checked my console. Her car had drained 73% of my battery capacity in one night. That wasn't an accident, it was deliberate theft. The next morning I went to her house, tried to be reasonable, even brought printed logs. I told her, "Pay me back for what you took and stop, and we'll call it even." She smirked. "You really think I'm paying you for sunlight?" and slammed the door in my face. Days later, I opened my mailbox to another HOA violation letter. This one accused me of hoarding renewable energy in an exclusionary manner. My blood boiled. That was the moment I realized Karen wasn't just entitled, she was dangerous. Act 2. Escalation and the turning point. I didn't shout. I didn't call the cops. I got creative. I spent nights designing a decoy port wired with a safe but chaotic voltage loop. It wouldn't hurt anyone, but it'd fry a charger and scare the life out of whoever plugged in. And sure enough, a few nights later my console lit up. Karen in pajama pants humming to herself plugged right in. 10 seconds later, POW sparks shot out. The Tesla hissed, and Karen screamed, stumbling back like a cartoon villain. The footage was priceless. And when neighborhood teens got hold of it, the clip went viral. Tesla Karen gets what she deserves. Millions of views. Overnight she became an internet meme. But Karen wasn't done. The very next day, she showed up at my door with 2 HOA board members, face sour as vinegar. "You tampered with my car," she snapped. I handed the board members a thick folder, video stills, timestamps, logs, proof of every time she stole power. Karen grabbed one page, waving it. "This proves nothing. No lock, no sign." I pointed up at my camera. "There's audio, too. Last night you said, and I quote, 'I figured I'd save a few bucks.'" The board members looked uneasy. Karen doubled down, threatened more complaints, but I could see cracks forming in her armor. Still, the retaliation came swift. Another violation letter, this time accusing me of dangerous electrical equipment. That was rich. And that's when I hit my lowest point. One night I found scratch marks on my solar control panel, the brain of my entire system. Security footage showed Karen dressed in black, crouching with a screwdriver trying to pry it open. If she'd succeeded, she could have caused a fire. I sat there staring at the footage, fists clenched, wondering, why me? Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm the difficult one. Maybe it'd be easier to just tear everything down and move on. For the first time, I doubted myself. I almost gave in. But then I pictured years of work money and pride all tossed aside because one HOA tyrant couldn't handle boundaries. And that's when it clicked backing down wasn't an option. So I fought back. I called my lawyer. We drafted a cease and desist letter, served it to Karen and the board. Then I installed a bright digital sign at the edge of my lawn, cycling messages like, "Private grid. Trespassers will be fried legally." And, "Stealing sunlight. Really, Karen?" The neighborhood loved it. People laughed. Neighbors brought me beer, calling me the hero we didn't know we needed. Even the local news showed up. They came expecting a David versus Goliath HOA piece, but when I walked them through my system, my permits, and played the footage of Karen's midnight sabotage, their story flipped. That night the news aired Karen painted as a trespasser under investigation, me as the reasonable homeowner defending my property. Karen went from feared HOA enforcer to the neighborhood clown. Memes popped up in the local Facebook group, her face lit by Tesla sparks with captions like, "Charge responsibly." But humiliation wasn't enough for her. She pushed harder. Act 3. The Showdown and Justice. The final straw came on a sunny morning. Security cameras caught Karen sneaking into my yard again, this time with a pair of garden shears. She tried to cut a data line, probably thinking it was power. The second she snipped an air horn I'd rigged blasted. She screamed, tripped, and fell backward into my mulch pile. I walked out filming the whole thing. She scrambled up dirt all over her sweater. "I was trimming your weeds," she shouted. I pointed at the clearly labeled cable. "That's a sensor line. Touch it again and you'll regret it." That footage was the nail in her coffin. At the emergency HOA meeting, Karen strutted in wearing sunglasses, voice trembling but defiant. "He's sabotaging me. He hoards energy while the rest of us are in the dark." When I was given the floor, I laid out everything: footage logs, legal documents, timestamps, every violation, every trespass. Silence filled the room. One board member finally spoke. "Karen, you were told to stop. You ignored it. This wasn't a mistake. It was repeated unauthorized access." The vote was swift, 34-2. Karen, stripped of her treasurer role, barred from future positions. Her only 2 votes, hers and her husband's. He looked like he wished he could disappear. Karen sat stiff in her chair, face red, hands shaking. She hissed at me as I walked past. "This isn't over." But it was. Soon after, a judge granted my restraining order. She couldn't set foot on my property again. Her once pristine Tesla sat on the curb, still bearing the scars of that surge, neighbors laughing as they walked by. Memes, news segments, whispers over fences. Karen became the punchline of our entire community. The same HOA that once enabled her even reimbursed me for damages from their discretionary fund. That was the ultimate irony. And me, I mounted her melted Tesla cable inside a glass box by my gate with a steel plaque. "Tamper with the sun. Get burned." Neighbors stopped to take selfies with it. Kids called it the Zap relic. And Karen. She put her house up for sale. No buyers. Everyone knew the story. Everyone remembered. Her empire was gone. Her reputation scorched. And for once my grid hummed in peace.